Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, presented by Superbook Sports. Taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Raise your hand if you're super happy it's Thursday. That is me. I'm excited for Thursday night football. Plenty to talk about. The Nuggets. Oh, yikes. Last night was not pretty for them. The Avalanche rebound finally and get some pucks in the back of the net. Plus, we, of course, have to talk a little bit about the Broncos. And there's a new champion that was announced yesterday. So lots of fun stuff, obviously, to get into. Happy Thursday, everybody. Keep your comments rolling. We are running a poll because you're going to help me decide who we should take tonight for Thursday Night Football, the Steelers or the Titans. Let me know which one you are interested in the most. Having Romy on yesterday was so much fun. I'm so glad that so many of you loved having her too. But I did want to go a little bit more in depth on like what we've learned about this team, this Broncos team to be specific, from the trade deadline. So I said yesterday, I wish that they would have traded Judy. I would like to see more use out of Marvin Mims. So getting rid of Judy would have given you a little bit of draft capital, depending on what it would have been too. So I kind of wish that move would have happened, but with Russell Wilson as your quarterback, it doesn't totally matter, to be completely honest. And we'll get into that a little bit here. I am happy, though, that they did not touch the defense. Things seem to be really clicking right now for this team. And so, like Justin Simmons said on Sunday, they really kind of dialed in on the communication, and Vance Joseph has been calling a really good game. So it's like, okay, perfect. Here we go. Things are starting to click. Let's not trade any of those pieces. That is in a number one place where I'm like, I actually am starting to believe in this team a little bit. Offense is still really a struggle for me. I think it's a coin flip, and I get kind of frustrated with the offense. But defense, I'm like, all right, they're figuring it out. However, this might be bad news for Kareem Jackson. PJ Locke seems to have filled the spot really well with Kareem out on suspension. He'll obviously have one more game following the bye, so he'll be out against Buffalo. But this might not be good because we know that Sean Payton wants to get the most out of some of these younger guys, see what they have out there. And Kareem's obviously on a one-year deal. So what will his role look like when he returns? He obviously brings this very leadership-filled vocal position to the Broncos locker room. But if you've got one of those younger guys that they're like, all right, this season's not entirely like a wash, but also it's not like they're going to go win the Super Bowl. Should we just play PJ Locke and see what we can get out of him? I'm really, really interested to see how this is going to go because, again, it's that veteran versus that rookie. And we saw what happened with some of the more veteran guys with this squad. And Sean Payton said, see you later. We're going to go with the younger guys too. I don't see Kareem Jackson being kicked to the curb by any means at all unless he wants to get out of here. But I am really fascinated by that. Let me know in the comments what you have thought of Locke so far this season. He was a little spotty to begin with, obviously, when he was kind of just in the rotation, but he played really well on Sunday. And so I was definitely kind of fascinated by that. Speaking of playoffs, everyone, did you know that the Broncos have a 3.3% chance to make the playoffs? That one hurts a little bit with everybody kind of riding so high on this team. When you hear that percentage, you're like, oh, maybe they should have done some picks and they should have traded at the trade deadline. And right now they have a 24.1% chance to get a top 5 pick. And the number 1 pick, and if everyone's still rooting for Caleb Williams right now, is just a 1.4%. So even less than trying to make the playoffs. Those percentages, again, are very interesting. You kind of get into the nitty gritty details, all of that. And again, that 3.3%, I'm like, ooh, maybe they should have started trading around to see what you could get. But a top 5 pick definitely is not terrible at that 24.1%. I think right now they're like 8 or 9. I think that's where they land. So, you got to kind of see how the season goes. Like I was totally on the full, like, let's sell everything. Let's be done. Let's move on. But then you beat the Chiefs, and you guys, everything just changes when you beat the Chiefs. You end the record or the streak that was going on, and you kind of build confidence. You all of a sudden have, it's a team that believes that they can beat a championship caliber team. Now, Travis Kelce goes on his podcast. First of all, if you haven't listened to his podcast with his brother, Jason Kelce, you are missing out. It is so freaking good. I love how open and honest they are. They have so much like brotherly love, and they like pick on each other. It's like the Manning cast, but podcast slightly. Like, you know, when you're watching the Manning cast and you're seeing Peyton pick on Eli and like you get a good like chuckle out of it. That's what the New Heights podcast is with Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce. So I 100% recommend doing it. I think it's been fascinating to kind of get a deeper look at who Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce is. And I've really loved it. But Travis Kelce calls the loss to the Broncos, embarrassing. And as it should be, Chiefs Kingdom was not happy with the loss to the Broncos, but it seems like it wasn't necessarily the loss to the Broncos that he's saying is totally embarrassing, but more about how the team is playing. And he kind of goes on in the podcast to talk about, you know, things aren't clicking, and they have one of the best offensive minds in Andy Reid, and they have the best quarterback in the league, Patrick Mahomes. And so why people are dropping the ball, why they're running the wrong routes. Like Travis is raising his hands for all of these things, and why all of that is happening is really interesting. And all I'm going to say is I hated the idea at the beginning of the season of the Broncos having back-to-back with 1 week in between games against the Chiefs. And now I'm like, wait, this actually might have worked in the Broncos' favor, because I know the Chiefs will start to figure things out eventually. So I'm happy that the Broncos just got it out of the way and we don't even have to worry about them anymore on the schedule. So that definitely makes me a little bit happier. I hated it when we first saw the schedule, but now I'm looking back and I'm like, okay, this is definitely better. I want to check out some of your guys' comments. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to Edward. Love you, Rachel, Alex. Appreciate you for hanging out with us. 100% agree. What's up, everybody? You know what we didn't get from PJ? A stupid personal foul penalty. Okay. Yeah. I believe it takes a while for the chemistry. I'm glad no one was traded. Could make a run to the playoffs. Even with that 3.3% chance, people are still on this. They're riding this bandwagon. Because again, you beat a championship caliber team and all of a sudden you're like, well, why can't we go out there and beat the Buffalo Bills? Why can't we go out there and beat the Vikings now that they don't have Kirk Cousins? Things start to open up more. And I think I fully believe, you guys, when there is a belief in one room that you can accomplish anything, it can totally happen. So I'm really interested to see. But again, I'm really happy the Chiefs game's out of the way. I'm sure they're going to figure it out come playoffs times. Never bet against Patrick Mahomes, but I'm really glad that the Broncos got that out of the way and got their at least one win against the Chiefs too. So through the first 5 games of the season, Russell Wilson was averaging 32.6 passing attempts per game. Listen to that. 32.6 passing attempts per game. In the last 3 games, he averaged 23 passing attempts per game. So what does that tell you? To me, I take that as, one, they're going to stick with running the ball. And thank goodness. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason, tons of people have been saying that for weeks of like, just run the freaking ball. That's how you're going to be able to win games. And that's definitely becoming true. But does that mean that he's kind of just like a game manager at this point? And can you pay him just to be a true game manager? My other question to you, and let's do this as a poll too. I want to do this as a poll. Also, I'm glad 54% of you are telling me to take the Titans. Okay, I'll trust on you guys with those numbers right there. We're going to do some picks later on in the show, but you guys tell me this on this poll. What if Russell Wilson's numbers continues to shrink, but the team starts to win more games? How are you going to feel? Are you going to be on, if they're winning games and Russell Wilson just isn't doing as much, to keep him around? Or are you on the Russ, it's got to go out the door no matter what? So Russ numbers. I only have 100 characters, so it's going to sound a little funky, but you guys get what I'm trying to say. Russ numbers shrink, but the Broncos win games. Keep him or ditch him. That poll's over on our YouTube if you're not watching over there. This is kind of a fascinating thing for me to think about, because if you want a quarterback that's going to be able to kind of save the day, right? You want somebody who's going to go out there in fourth quarter, and he's like top 5 in the league at that too, of fourth quarter comebacks. But if he's not going to be able to throw the ball as much and they truthfully have to just rely on the run, then defenses are going to 100% be able to kind of just dial in. So you need Russ to be at least versatile to a certain degree. So I'm curious. 50% of people, so it's split right now. 50% of people are saying keep him. 50% of people are saying ditch him. I'm really going to be fascinated. Brian says keep in the comments. What do you do if Russell Wilson's numbers continue to shrink, but the team starts to win more games? I think this is so fascinating, and this is something we're actually going to be paying attention to because, again, they're going to continue running the ball. At least you hope so. Knock on wood. Sean Payton, I hope you're out there, and I hope you're listening to everybody who's saying just run the freaking ball. You've got McLaughlin. You've got P. Ryan. You got Javonte Williams. Run the ball. And first of all, we don't really talk about this. I love being able to see Javonte go out there and still be able to carry guys. We saw that a few times against the Chiefs. He still was able to put guys on his back and keep running. And I love that for Javonte. He does not look scared at all. And I know we're through week 8 of the NFL season, but it's great because I'm sure there's a part, like just a little bit in the back of his mind that reminds him of the injury that he went through. And I'm glad he's not thinking about it at all. 67% of people are keep him. So as long as this Broncos team is continuing to win games, you guys are wanting to keep him. Okay. I like it. I think that Russ is going to end up staying with this team, especially if they do win, 6, maybe 7 games. I do think they'll keep him just because that salary, man, it's so hard to get rid of him too. That dead weight money, tough. Let's move on to the Denver Nuggets real quick, just a little bit. Oh, real quick, I do want to point out this comment. Do we not remember the Simeon, Osweiler, Lynch, Sanchez, Flacco, and Case Keenum days? Oh, those fun days. And actually, I was watching the World Series, or I was keeping up with the score last night of the World Series. And I was like, I just never really got into baseball at all. And I was like, I wonder why that is. And because when I was growing up, the Rockies weren't very good. And so it was never like something I wanted to have on my TV. And so I feel like they've never been good. I know they had a few times where they, had decent seasons, but I felt like it was never good. And it made me realize for a lot of kids growing up right now, that's how they're looking at this Denver Broncos team. They got into football and they're watching bad football and they can't get into it. And that just makes me so sad knowing the history of this Denver Broncos organization and how so many of us look at it, right? How could we forget Super Bowl 50, you guys? And even for the older generation that go all the way back, how can you not be excited about it? And so it makes me sad. And that's why I really hope that the Broncos can get back on the bandwagon and start to win more games. That way for the younger generation, they can get into it and they don't end up being like me. They're like, I don't really care about baseball all that much. Although I do have an interesting kind of conspiracy a little bit about Bud Black, and we are going to get into that a little bit later. I'm going to read some of your guys' comments real quick because, of course, I always love reading them. I find your guys' opinions so fascinating. So please keep them coming. That's like my favorite part about doing this show is I get to talk to you guys and hear what you guys are thinking. And it's always so fun for me. Are they shrinking because he's stinking it up or shrinking because it's the game plan? If he's shrinking because it's the game plan, then keep him. And if it's because he's stinking, then boot him. Honestly, Clint, on this comment real quick, I think it's a little bit of both. I think because he is stinking, it's the game plan. And I think because there's not a whole lot of trust in Russell Wilson, that it's the game plan that they're kind of shrinking him. So can 2 things be true at once? I think Zach Baez says that yes, 2 things can be true at once. So you tell me, if it's the game plan and because it's stinking, does that mean you just boot him and you get it out? Let me know in the comments. I do want to move on to the Denver Nuggets though, because they got smoked by Minnesota last night. I'm going to be completely honest with all of you. I didn't watch much of the game. They started off not looking good. It was not a pretty game for them. So I didn't watch a ton of it. I turned it over to the Avs game that was also going on roughly around the same time. But the T-Wolves, they absolutely just dominated the game. From start to finish, it felt like. Obviously, they start off really slow. And even by the end of it, I mean, you were looking at like 20 points at one point in the fourth quarter, and you're like, all right. So you kind of just look over this game. And it's weird to me, and tell me if you guys feel the exact same way in the comments. I have such different standards than I do from the Avalanche and the Nuggets. Not in the sense of like, hey, I don't think that they both are capable of winning championships, because I totally do. 100% think they're both capable of doing it. But I look at this Denver Nuggets team and I'm like, oh my gosh, why weren't you able to pull this one out? Were you guys just like going out there too loosey-goosey, not taking this seriously enough? They've played 4 games now, and I'm just kind of like, okay, like what was up right there? Like, what's going on, Nuggets? Compared to when the Avalanche lost for the first time, I'm like, oh, they've been on the road for so long. They only had 2 games at home. Like, of course, they're eventually going to lose. And I feel like I kind of give a little bit more grace to the Colorado Avalanche side. And for me, for the Denver Nuggets, I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, what's happening here? And the fact that if your name was not Joker or Jamal, and you, in fact, only scored 15 points. Like the rest of the starters only scored 15 points if your name was not Joker or Jamal. I'm like, you guys, what are we doing? Aaron Gordon, I'm sorry, where are you? KCP, what are we doing out here, buddy? Like, where are all of these guys? You can't just rely on Joker and Jamal. Do I think that they'll bounce back? Abso-freaking-lutely. And also, I remember we were talking about who would have the longer streak between the Avs and the Nuggets for most undefeated games. It was definitely the Avalanche by plenty. So, I don't know. I didn't love it. Also, have you guys seen the new threads for the Nuggets? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments. Here they are. Personally, I really don't like it. And this is why I'm confused by this whole in-season tournament thing too. Real quick. Tell me, there's the blue that they're going to have on the court for the in-season tournament. Why didn't they do something like similar? Like, I just don't like them. I know so many people are like, oh, New Jerseys, we kind of love it. Yeah. No, I really don't like it. I think you should have done like the entire thing, that blue color, and maybe have done, I don't know, the red mountains or something of that nature. I just really, really don't like these jerseys. I also don't like the new court tournament. Speaking of which, that does start tomorrow too for everybody. Remember, this new in-season tournament begins tomorrow night for the Nuggets. What do you guys think of the jerseys? Are we fans of the new threads for the Nuggets? I'm really not. I would rather have the silhouette of the mountains on the court. Ooh, that would actually have been a really, really good idea. Let's see. You guys are still on the Russell Wilson stuff too, which I love. They would blend in with the same blue. The inside of the jerseys are that cobalt blue. Yeah, but I just don't like it. And like, why the 5280 so big? Like, don't get me wrong. I love like that they bring that in, but it just makes me think of the number, like of whoever is out there. Like 5280 spread across it. Is that all we're known for out here anymore? I'm just not a huge fan. Yesterday when we had Romy on, we touched on this a little bit, but we didn't show the quote from Deion Sanders. So again, if you missed the show yesterday, the CU Buffs were at UCLA. We're at the Rose Bowl on Saturday, and they had some stuff stolen from them. UCLA also had some stuff stolen out of their locker room too. But of course, we're focusing here on the Buffs. But Deion went absolutely off, you guys, on the NCAA and the Rose Bowl, talking about how essentially they need to reimburse these kids because they haven't taught them about insurance and all of that kind of stuff. And for them, it was a lot of precious items that were stolen. And I'm still confused how there's no cameras outside of the locker rooms or how anybody was even like, able to get into those locker rooms. But besides the point, I did want to read this quote because I find it fascinating. And I think Deion absolutely kind of nailed it by making it just seem like he's talking straight to the NCAA. And he goes, this is the Rose Bowl. This is the granddaddy of them all. Well, I'm sure granddaddy has some money. Grandpa should have some money to give these kids. I'm going to have a list from the kids about what they lost. Maybe we can reimburse them. I did hear that the home team was robbed as well, and that doesn't make sense. You're out there balling and playing your heart out, and you get robbed. Do something about it, NCAA. You do something about everything else, Sanders says. When it comes to kids, NCAA, you should do something about everything else. Do something about this one. So I love that he said, this is the granddaddy of them all. Grandpa has to have some money. Like, he just makes it so relatable when he gets out there and he talks and you're like, yeah, you're right, Deion. Like, they should. The NCAA has so much money. And the fact, again, that they don't even know like how this happened, that first of all is problem number one. How could anybody get into the locker room? Why isn't there better security out there on both sides? And the fact that it did happen to both locker rooms makes you think that it was, possibly security people or like somebody that wasn't involved with the team or not a fan of the game or something like that. And if somebody was able to get in there so easily, it just, I don't know, brings me question. And I know a lot of people have come to the defense of saying, well, they shouldn't be so flashy with all of their stuff. Think back to when you were in college. I would get a new cell phone and I'd be like, yeah, look at my new phone. Like, you're so flashy with all of it. So you can't come at these kids and say, oh, don't be flashy. They're making NIL money at this point. And I know 50-50 people are on this train of like, well, they shouldn't be getting paid this money. Like, the education is worth it, yada, yada, yada. This is the world we're living in, everybody. I'm sorry. You got to get used to it. They're going to be able to go out there and make money. And to be honest, for some of these players, like, do you guys really want to see Shedeur go on to the NFL? I mean, I know we do in the long run, but like, wouldn't you like to see him stick around for another year instead of just trying to chase money and go straight to the NFL? There are pros and cons to this NIL stuff, but I will be fascinated to see what they end up doing from the standpoint of reimbursing these kids, what they actually like had stolen, etc. The Avalanche. Hallelujah. They get back on track, you guys. I'm so ecstatic for them. It felt like the past 2 games had just been like, okay, like, is Georgie just exhausted? What's going on here? We were all nervous about Cale Makar. Cale Makar goes out there last night. He looks great. Ballerina is ecstatic that he's out there. So I am really happy. First, that Bowen Byram and Cale Makar were both able to get out there. Bowen Byram played in his 100th NHL game. That's crazy for how young he is. And he's played, I think they said 27 playoffs games. That's unreal, you guys. So many games for him. It was great to see him get back out there. And then we have to go to Prospetov. I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly. He was solid. He was really solid last night. And I know he was getting a ton of credit to the defense and just saying, like if he had to lay out and try and do a rebound, the defense was already there for the puck and they made it a lot easier for him. And that definitely does help when you have a guy like Cale Makar or Devon Toews out there right in front of you being able to help. So I'm glad that he kind of got his feet underneath them. They got a win with him. And now they've faced Vegas on Saturday night. That's going to be a crazy game. I'm really looking forward to it too. Putting that one, definitely circling it on the calendar. You can be watching that one. And I think they play close to the same time as CU does as well. So like kind of flip it back and forth. See what you feel like watching. So I am really happy though that they were able to get a win, get back in the W column too. It was really important. I think just for this team feeling confident in themselves too and not feeling like they have to put all the pressure on Georgie. That can be really stressful when you do feel like that. And especially too, when the season is so long and because they have no idea when Francouz is going to come back. I know we've mentioned that name so much here on Coffee Break. Don't get me wrong. I'm in the exact same boat of like, what's the latest with Francouz? Why aren't we hearing more about this? When are we going to hear more? When is he going to come back and what that's looking like? But having a backup goaltender be able to go out there. And I think that was like his 13th or 14th NHL game ever. So the fact that he was able to go out there and get a win, I'm really happy to see that for sure. Now, the Rangers topped the Diamondbacks to win the World Series. Did you guys hear that this was the lowest watched World Series ever? And it doesn't really surprise me. Even when you turn on, ESPN or whatever you're going to be, there's not a whole lot about the MLB nowadays. And so it's not really that surprising to me that a ton of people didn't tune in, but the Texas Rangers obviously go on to win. Here's my conspiracy when it comes to Bud Black. I have been on this for years. Every time he gets an extension, I'm like, why? Why on earth is he continuing to get extensions? I just don't quite understand. And I'm watching ESPN this morning, and they're talking about Bruce Bochy, who's the manager for the Texas Rangers. He's now got 4 World Series titles, and you're like, all right, you like to see it. Like, good job for you, dude. But what is it about him that's enabled him to be able to have such success? And they're talking about this and how the Rangers front office just gives him like full responsibility for how the game's going to be played out. There's no set game plan. And it's just totally him feeling out the game, seeing how things are going to go for, each individual guy. There's not a game plan of like, oh, we're going to take this guy out after this many things. It's just fully, completely on, okay, this is what, like, if so-and-so is, pitching really well, he's going to stay out there as long as he can. And then we'll bring in somebody else. There's just no game plan. But this was the most interesting part to me, is they bring up the fact that most front offices kind of chime in and they have the game plan that they want their managers to follow. And it's not typically the case for a manager to kind of have full responsibility for the team. Now, we look at so many other different parts and we're like, oh my gosh, like the Denver Broncos, right? Like, who has the responsibility for what this team looks like? It's not totally on the Walton Penner Group or the owners or whoever it's going to be on George Payton for what this team's going to look like. And so it made me really get back to thinking, well, if the front office is making most of the game plans and decisions for this Rockies team, which I don't know if this is the case, but this is the only reason in my head that I can make it all make sense when it comes to Bud Black. If the front office is making the game plan for the Rockies, then it makes sense that Bud Black is continuing to be employed, because how can you go on and fire somebody when you're in fact making the game plan and things just aren't working out? It's my own little conspiracy on it because I've never understood why he was still employed after they've had terrible years for so many years and they've been a laughingstock and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, the MLB, just like the NFL, NBA, NHL, all they want to do is make money, and people continue to show up at Coors Field. So as long as you have a manager who's willing to go out there every single day and put guys out there on the mound and have pitching and hitting and yada yada, and people go out there and continue to drink their lemonades or whatever they're going to do, then I guess it's going to work. I would love to see the Rockies actually make some moves here to be able to do some stuff. I don't know what the offseason will hold for them, but truthfully, that's from coming from somebody who's not a huge baseball fan. I would actually like to see the Rockies be good one day, enough that I can be super interested and be like, okay, what are they going to be up to every single day, instead of counting down to how many days is it going to be before they reach 100 games, 100 losses. In case you are familiar with the Rockies and you remember the name John Gray, well, he does in fact get a ring. He celebrated last night. Plenty of good stuff. I saw all of the TikToks this morning of so many players, like wives and girlfriends, etc. All of them hanging out last night and celebrating, popping bottles, having fun, and getting ready to hopefully not have horrible hangovers today. But it is kind of fun. I always love seeing celebrations. I was lucky enough to be in the Nuggets locker room, I guess. I wasn't there for when everything was getting sprayed. I sent Jake Shapiro in there with the goggles and everything to get all of those shots. But it is fun. I mean, you get to see different sides of people. You get to see them finally let loose and be so happy. And you have the Joker and Jamal falling into a pool. And the celebrations, no matter what, are always one of like the coolest things. So I am excited and happy for the Texas Rangers. I have a lot of good friends out there in Texas too who are really happy and looking forward to going to a parade. So I'm excited about that. And I truly do mean, from a girl that doesn't love baseball, from the bottom of my heart, that one day I hope the Rockies can, get back on some winning ways and hopefully bring some more love to that team here in Denver for sure. Going back to some of your guys' comments, because again, I love it. Again, let me know, please, 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 who should I pick tonight, the Titans or the Steelers? I'm very curious. Baseball is local. Even real baseball fans don't watch the World Series unless their team is. And that is a great point actually right there. It is totally local. It's not like the Super Bowl, or where you pay attention, like you're super excited to watch the Dolphins-Chiefs game on Sunday morning, super early while they're in Germany. Totally local. Troy B. I'm excited for this question, actually. This is like one of the first times somebody here has asked me, how is the wedding planning going? My son just got engaged, so we are in it now as well. Congratulations, Troy, to your son on getting engaged. That's super exciting. It is going very well. It has been the first couple of months, I won't lie, are really, really stressful because you're trying to figure out your budget, where you want to get married, how many people you're going to have. But once you're kind of able to narrow down on that, it is, I know, really fun and exciting. We have a friend that's getting married here in a couple of months, so we've been really focused on celebrating that couple and getting excited for it. But yeah, otherwise, wedding planning is going fun. Let me know if they're getting married in Colorado. I will just say prices out here are absolutely outrageous. We are actually hiring our photographer and videographer from a different state because it's cheaper to fly them in and have them shoot them than just taking somebody here in Colorado. So that would be some of my other advice. If you find some really good people that you like for those sort of things, look outside the state of Colorado because the prices here are just absolutely outrageous. Last one for you guys. Again, please let me know, who should I take tonight, the Titans or the Steelers? I'm kind of up in up in the air on it. Will Levis is making his second start. He obviously had a really good game on Sunday, but also we're not sure what's going to happen with Kenny Pickett. So I'm a little I don't really know how to feel about this. Should I go with the Titans? Should I go with the Steelers? I never want to go against Mike Tomlin, but he obviously just hasn't been as solid as, 5 years ago or whatever it was now at this point. So I don't really know who to pick. And then last one too, and this is because it's one of my favorite traditions in Colorado sports, the boot run is underway. 40 miles, 2,000 feet of elevation. I think it's a 33rd, maybe it's the 33rd, I actually think, boot run that's happening as the CSU Rams are carrying it to the Wyoming border. I think it's such a cool tradition. I know they start super, super early, so I'm glad that the weather's not going to be terrible for them today. They'll get it to the border, and then Wyoming will take it from there and head on out. So totally cool. Again, I really love that tradition. I think it's always fun. But you guys, I love hanging out with you every single day. Thank you so much to Cecil Lammy. Will be on with us tomorrow. I don't know if he's in the comments today. I haven't seen him on, but he'll be on tomorrow to talk and give us a little bit of fantasy tips. Of course, we'll chat a little bit about the Broncos, the bye week, and all of the games coming up this weekend. So plenty more good stuff. So we'll see you tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Have a wonderful Thursday, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.